Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday to you. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We are on Revelation chapter 15, and it's entitled Seven Angels with Seven Plagues. So it's actually a short chapter, so I'm going to read that quickly, and then I'm going to make the commentary. So, beginning in verse 1, I saw in heaven another great and marvelous sign, seven angels with the seven last plagues. Last, because with them God's wrath is completed. And I saw what looked like a sea of glass mixed with fire, and standing beside the sea, those who had been victorious over the beast and his image, and over the number of his name. They held harps given them by God, and sang the songs of Moses, the servant of God, and the song of the Lamb. Great and marvelous are your deeds, Lord God Almighty. Just and true are your ways. King of the ages, who will not fear you, O Lord, and bring glory to your name? For you alone are holy. All nations will come and worship before you, for your righteous acts have been revealed. And after this I looked, and in heaven, that is, the tabernacle of the testimony was open. And out of the temple came the seven angels with the seven plagues. They were dressed in clean, shining linen, and wore golden sashes around their chests. Then one of the four living creatures gave to the seven angels seven golden bowls filled with the wrath of God, who lives forever and ever. And the temple was filled with the smoke from the glory of God and from his power. And no one could enter the temple until the seven plagues of the seven angels were completed. And that's the end of chapter 15. So I'm going to make a brief commentary from some notes that I compiled from various sources. So first of all, chapter 15 of Revelation opens with John seeing another great and marvelous sign, which is seven angels with the last plagues, which completes God's wrath. So the wicked world is about to drink the wine of the wrath of God, which is spoken of in Revelation 14, which we had finished the other day. So it seemed in Revelation 14 to describe the end with the Battle of Armageddon, but John is going back to describe the judgment in more detail in this section. So this is often the case with prophecy in the Bible and in Hebrew literature in general. So there are two words in the biblical Greek for wrath or anger. One is thymos, which is a volatile and passionate anger. And the other one is orge or ogre, maybe whether we get the word ogre, I'm not sure, which is anger from a settled disposition. So thymos is used only 11 times in the Bible, and 10 of the 11 are in the book of Revelation. So, before the judgment is poured out on the unbelieving world, John sees the believers from the tribulation who had overcome the beast and his system. So, these ones are the believers that are actually martyred, as we see in the wording in Revelation 12:11, where it said they loved not their lives unto death. So, they gave up their lives unto death. And so that describes them. So since they did not capitulate to the mark of the beast, they were unable to buy or sell or trade, and they were totally dependent on their Lord for the daily bread while the time that they lasted. And then some were put in prison and some were slain, as we read from Revelation 13, but they endured with faith and patience. And so not all tribulation saints are going to perish. Okay, I've read many articles about that too, where there's going to be some tribulation saints that actually go into the new millennial, and we can discuss that at another time. So the scene next is reminiscent of Israel following the Exodus, and they had been delivered by Egypt by the blood of the Lamb on the doorpost, if you recall, and the Egyptian army was destroyed in the Red Sea, if you've read that in Exodus. So and also, when they were delivered from the Egyptians, they also sang the Song of Moses. So these tribulation saints that I just read about are standing by a sea of glass in heaven instead, and they're singing the song of Moses and also the song of the Lamb. So even though the Antichrist kills them, they still have victory over the beast, and the blood of the Lamb ensures their exodus from earth to heaven. Okay, so instead of the Israelites, their exodus from Egypt, okay, these believers are going from earth dwellers to heaven dwellers. So the next thing we see is the angels coming out of the temple with the 7 plagues. And so they have shining, clean clothing on that reminds us of God's judgment is pure and completely righteous. And we also see one of the 4 living creatures that are actually given these 7 angels these bowls with the wrath of God. So on studying about this, these bowls are actually broad, flat bowls or saucers for pouring out libations in sacrificial terms. So they had talked about how the term for vials in some versions of the Bible is really not as accurate as a good description. And so these are more like bowls or saucers, all right? The last thing we see in this chapter is the temple being filled with the smoke from the glory of God and from his power, so that no one can enter the temple until the plagues are totally completed. In the Old Testament, when the tabernacle and temple were dedicated, if you recall that in Exodus and 2nd Chronicles, those earthly buildings were filled with God's glory when they were dedicated. But now, in this picture, we see the heavenly temple filled with smoke of God's glory and power. So, these earth dwellers have already had the seal and the trumpet judgments, but this is the final series that will lead to Babylon's fall and Jesus Christ's return to the earth. So then, our next study will be coming up in Revelation 16, and it's going to be talking about the 7 bowls that I just talked about here, but in greater description. So that's the end of the commentary for Revelation 15 today. It's a little bit shorter since it was a shorter chapter, and I will see you soon. Now, I'm not absolutely sure I will get Wednesdays done. I have an important doctor appointment on that day, and it's, right in the middle. So I will see. I might either do a small devotional, or if I have time to work on chapter 16, I may put chapter 16 out. I just don't know if it'll be in the morning. So I hope that everyone has a wonderful evening, and God bless.